Hi, my name is Bryce Klenk, and I am part of Team 1 covering UN Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which is quality education. Our team covered the targets 4.1 and 4.2, specifically the indicators 4.1.2 and 4.2.2, which is completion rate and participation rate, basically making sure that every boy and girl gets to go to school and then finish. If we look over here at our poster, we have the goal and we have our two indicators, and we have a summary of what the program does. The goal is to display data comparing enrollments rates and completion rates of Ukrainian students. The data is shown for males, females, and an average of the two. 3 sets are displayed, one for primary, one for lower secondary, one for upper secondary. When you run the program, it states whether or not the category is on track for the sustainability goal, and once the user gathers information from the program, they can click a button to take the quiz, which has 5 questions and will grade you once submitted. If we look over here at our algorithm, we basically have 3 programs, which are like 3 sub-programs that all are part of the overall program. And the first one displays this message, which gives you the summary of the program and then instructions on how to use it. And you can click the Start button, which will launch this, which is our second program. And it will basically launch this, but blank. The table is blank, the graph is blank, the message will be blank. And you can basically select the level you want to look at from your drop-down menu and click Plot Data. And then it'll fill out all this information and tell you whether or not you are on track. And you can do this as many times as you want. You can go through the different levels. You can double, triple check them if you want. And it should just let you keep going. But then once you do have the information you want, you can click the Take the Quiz button at the bottom, which will launch our third program, which looks like this. And it's a quiz. And basically it'll be like this, but of course it'll all be blank. And once you fill in your answers, you hit the Submit button, and then it will check to see which answers are correct and then give you a percentage score based on how many are correct. We see here this person got 60%, meaning they got 3 out of 5 correct, and that's basically how the program works.
The program starts with a couple startup functions. We have one that renames the window and one that loads the initial data from primary education into the table. This section here deals with loading all the data into the table using the drop-down. So we have the drop-down here, and then we have the 3 variables that are set to each different Excel sheet. And then we used a switch case function here to load them from the drop-down. So when the drop-down is set to primary education, it loads the primary variable data set, which is the sheet with primary education. And so on and so forth for the rest of them. So like with lower education, upper secondary. Down here deals with plotting the data on the axis component. So we have them set like this, so it's just easier for MATLAB to read them in. And then we used another switch case function here. But because the button doesn't have any different values, it checks the drop-down value and then plots based off what we have it set to. We changed the X-tick labels to male, female, and average instead of numbers to better visualize for the user. And then we have a lamp color based on whether or not the graph's values are on track with the UN's goals. And obviously the last one is R for red because it does not. And then down here, this just basically, when you click the test button, it just opens a separate application that just has the test on it. So if we go ahead and run the program, the main window, this will be the main program window. So here's the drop down with the primary, secondary education. It changes the values in the table. And then we have the plot data button here. And as you can see, the lamp's green, and then a corresponding message is printed here. Lower secondary education, we have the plot here as well. And then upper secondary education, the lamp turns red because obviously the attendance rate is much lower than it should be for the UN's goals. And that's pretty much the background code of the program and how it works. The last thing is just the take a quiz button. You just push that button and then your quiz will pop up. And the quiz code and interface will be just explained by one of my other group members. So that's the code for the main program and a short tour of the interface.
I'll be explaining this last part of our program, the quiz. It's pretty straightforward, and basically what we wanted to do is make it hard enough so that the users have to understand the data, but not too hard to where it's overbearing. And so this 2-window format is super nice because you can just go back to the data and for question 1, see that the main concerns that this data is focusing on is completion rate and attendance rate. Put that in and then continue on with the rest of the questions. And so the front end of this code is pretty straightforward because we use Designer. So it's just drag and drop just like that. And for this first one, we use checkboxes because it select multiple. The second 2, we used edit field text right here. And for the last 2, we use toggle button group. And so that's each button in its view. The front end's pretty easy. The back end is a little bit more difficult, but still not too bad. We have a score initially set to 0, and we want to add points for the first one specifically if they select a correct one, and take away points if the score is greater than 0 and if they select the wrong one. So basically, if you select 2 right and 1 wrong, you get 0.5 points. If you select all 4, you get 0 for that first question. You can't get negative points for that first question. For the second 2, you want to see if the input is equal to the answers, so 97 and 100. And then for the last 2, you want to make sure that the right button is selected or is equal to true. So the true button is equal to true and the upper secondary button value is equal to true. Then you get that score divided by the total number of points, which is 5, and multiply that by 100 to get the percentage. And that gets us this really nice code to where we can just type in the answers. And I'll get 1 wrong just for an example. And submit it. We see we got 80%. And that's because primary education is in track with the UN's goals. So we press true, submit it, and we get 100%. But that's the whole of our code, and we hope that it's enjoyable and provides a lot of understanding for our goal. Thanks for watching.